And now I am so honored to introduce acclaimed author, mother, wife, volunteer, advocate, and tonight's Bid for a Cure speaker. All the way from New York, let's give her a warm Minnesota welcome, Margarete Cassalina. Come on up.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter.
I'll save you from my singing, okay? You're welcome. Good evening, everyone. What a fabulous night. Is this not awesome or what? My name is Margarete Cassalina, and as Elizabeth said, I'm from New York. Please don't hold that against me. And I have another apology. I'm gonna make you cry, so just don't hold that against me either. But I've been in this fight for cystic fibrosis since 1991. Did you know that we have tragically lost more people with cystic fibrosis than currently live with cystic fibrosis? Take that in for a minute. We have lost more people to CF than currently have CF. That just gets me. It should get all of you. So tonight I stand before you with one message. We are not done. We need to keep going because we are in this together. Now, as a writer, I enjoy a good theme. And I mean, who doesn't enjoy a good theme? So if you would indulge me, I want to take you down the road I would like to call Together Until It Is Done. I hope you're ready for that ride. Questionnaire, who uses Google Maps or Waze, when you're trying to get directions, right? Everybody in here, come on, right? You enter in the destination and you trust those internet gods to take you from point A to point B. The only thing about Waze is that it's constantly recalculating, and then it alerts you to the hazards in the road, the things on the shoulders and, cops on the side of the road. But life is like that, especially living with cystic fibrosis. The drive is never as simple as you think. So trust me, I know. And here's a nice picture. So when I was 22, I married my husband, Mark, sitting over there. Yes, and just so you know, you young people, mullets were in style then. And honey, I'm sorry you don't have that hair anymore, but okay. But that's okay. So we took out our Waze and we typed in happily ever after into our GPS, and we started on our way. We were young and we were full of hope, and we were ready for whatever came our way. In July of 1991, our son Eric was born. His make and model, his genetic makeup, was Delta F508 and G542X. That's how cystic fibrosis was introduced to us, a disease we had never, ever heard of. So we asked the doctor 3 questions. What is cystic fibrosis? How did he get cystic fibrosis? And more importantly, how bad is cystic fibrosis? And I will never forget the doctor who walked in, who answered it with one sentence. She told me, cystic fibrosis is a fatal genetic disease. And then went on to tell me that my new baby boy, his life expectancy was 19. My whole world shifted at that moment. Our happily ever after became a road filled with uncertainty and fear. Our GPS, I looked down, rerouting. So like any parent, I searched for alternate routes. I found the perfect one. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called the helicopter mom. So my version went something like this. I'm gonna take my beautiful baby boy and I'm gonna put him in a bubble. And then I'm gonna bleach his world, and I'm gonna sterilize the house twice a day, probably 3. I'll drench in gallons of Purell any single person within a 5-mile radius of my child. I'm gonna give up my life my friends, and most definitely my sanity. I will devote every single minute of every single day to his treatments, his food, his medicine, his doctors, and boy, oh boy, those insurance companies, oh, don't we love them? And I'm gonna limit whom he plays with and where he goes. And I'm gonna cry daily because life isn't fair. And I will live in fear of every what if that can happen to him. And I'm gonna go all Taylor Swift and never, ever, and I mean ever, let him out of my sight. It was great mother-son bonding. Who here remembers Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho? It works, right? But jokes aside, I did have the cleanest house on the block. And I was very well organized. And at 19 months, my son Eric's lungs were pristine. And when I say 19 months is because on March 13th, 1993, his little sister was born. She too had that make and model, Delta F508 and G542X. She too was told she had a genetic disease with no cure. I looked down at my Waze and it said, please hold, recalculating route. Unlike Eric, Jena, her expression of CF was much more severe. Hospitalizations for weeks and weeks at a time for years and years. She had feeding tube, oxygen, and when she was 12 years old, her lung function dropped to 19%. In October of 2006, she was accepted and evaluated. She was evaluated and accepted for a double lung transplant. But that lung transplant never happened. And on December 4th of 2006, my worst nightmare was my reality. My daughter Jena moved up to heaven at the age of 13. By the way, this picture was taken 2 months before she moved up. Does that look like someone at 19% lung function? I didn't care about the road. I didn't care about the destination. Quite frankly, I didn't care about anything. Waze gave me alert. Proceed to route for guidance. But I was lost. My daughter was gone, and my son still had cystic fibrosis. And so did 30,000 others still in the fight of their life, still trying to live. So eventually I got back on that road. And in my rear view, I could see everything that had been building since 1991. The research, the antibiotics, the therapies, all that kept my son alive. And in 2007, at a CF conference, Bob Bell, the CEO and president of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation at that time, he held up this blue pill, and his smile was so wide, and he was so excited, and he said, this pill right here has the potential, but it's gonna take a lot of money, a lot of time, but this has the potential to stop the progression of cystic fibrosis at the root cause. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Happy, yes, sad it came too late for my daughter, great for my son and all those still fighting. But he said, it's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of money. That was in 2007. And it took until 2012 for that drug to turn into what we now know as Kalydeco. Kalydeco was a Vertex drug that was VX770 for the older people in the room, they remember that. And we were all ready to wave that checkered flag and call it a win. Oh my God, we got the drug. We're like, yes. But soon we found out that it really only impacted a particular mutation, G551D. And that was 4% of all those with cystic fibrosis, leaving 96% without any kind of treatment. You see, my son was not G551D, and he needed to be to benefit from Kalydeco. Cystic fibrosis has over 2,000 different makes and models, over 2,000 different genetic mutations that need to be addressed. And we were losing beautiful souls like my daughter every single day. But you have to trust that navigational system sometimes. And it said, shorter route found. And man, it was. In 2015, we had a new drug called Orkambi. And in 2018, we had Symdeko. More research, more funding. But my son's make and model still did not qualify. His lungs were deteriorating, and so was his liver. And then in October of 2019, one of the best signs on the highway in the CF world came to be Trikafta. It had been FDA approved, and now it would impact, between all the drugs, we had 90% of those with cystic fibrosis that had a treatment for the root underlying cause of cystic fibrosis. 90%, my son included. And for the first time since he was 7 years old, I saw my 28-year-old son run. And he ran right into the arms of his wife, Courtney, my grandson, Easton, and my granddaughter, Everly. My son now is 33, and he can be the father and the husband he had always, always dreamed he would be. But here's the truth, people. The fight isn't over. Trikafta, it really is a miracle drug for those it works for. But let me tell you, today I had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with some grandparents. We call them grampians because they are champions as grandparents. So we have grampians in the room. And we also have parents of young kids with cystic fibrosis. And Bailey, I met Bailey's mom and dad, Kelly and Anton, and they told us, my husband and I, about the fact that she was on Trikafta, that miracle drug, the drug that brought my son's lung function from 30 to 50, the drug that have saved people's lives. But it didn't work for her because there are people out there that have serious side effects from this drug. I mean, serious side effects. And then there's, like my son, Eric. It came too late. He was 28. He has permanent, severe damage done because of cystic fibrosis. And Trikafta, he can't even take the whole dose because it's too taxing on his liver. He is currently, he has to go through a transplant, a liver transplant. And he has other complications, all due to cystic fibrosis. And quite honestly, it's very hard for a mother to go through this twice. But in addition to that, we also have, I apologize for that. I get off course because Trikafta, as wonderful as it is, it's not a home run. And my son's not alone. There are many people still battling CF. And recently, at another CF conference, I met a young mom who had a 9-month-old daughter. And her eyes were all watery. And she had just told me that her baby girl had tested positive for cystic fibrosis. And like many, she had never heard of cystic fibrosis, so she did what any person would do. You go to Google and you start Googling cystic fibrosis. And she was so excited to know that there was a treatment for 90% of all those with cystic fibrosis. Of course, that'd be great. 90% is 90%. But then her voice kept shaking and she kept saying, "But Margaret, I don't understand. I don't understand." I said, "What did you mean?" She said, "The doctor told me that my little girl has cystic fibrosis, but there is no treatment for my little girl. Her make and model doesn't qualify for anything. Not because of her age, but because of her genetic mutation. Her baby has 2 nonsense mutations, and there is no current treatment. And despite all the advancements we made, there's no underlying treatment for her. The doctor actually told her, 'I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do.'" That broke me. That should break all of you. We have come so far, but there are still roadblocks. There's still hazards out there, and we can't stop. That's why we're here tonight. Together, we'll keep fighting for that baby girl, for every child, for every family still waiting for their miracle. Our GPS is still recalculating, and those 10% people that don't have any kind of treatment for their underlying cause, well, we're here for them. We can't stop. Folks, just imagine this. Someone tells you to drive from New York to Hawaii, and you drive 90% of the way, and you get to California, and you're like, well, I can't drive to Hawaii, but you made it 90% of the way there. But that's the thing in research. What got us from New York to California, the treatments that it got us from that 90%, that's not gonna work for that last 10% at all. We can't, it's not like we're that close. We're not that close. We're actually starting all over again. We need a new road, a new bridge. We need something that gets us from California to Hawaii, and that's where you guys come in. We have to build that space shuttle bridge. I don't care what we're building, but it's not a road, because we know that doesn't work. So I stand here sharing my story because, quite honestly, I do this because I don't ever want another mother to bury their child because of this disease. It is so hard. It is so hard. So let's get everyone to that happily ever after, because I was there when Bob Bell held up that blue pill, and I was there when my son took his Trikafta pill for the first time. And God, I will be there when CF doesn't just stand for cure found, but cured forever. And here's where all of you come in case you wanted to know. Let's do this together. Let's get everyone to that destination. Let's give everyone a chance at happily ever after. There's no exit for us yet. We can't get off. We can't stop until every single person has that opportunity, where we collectively cross that finish line, where we did not leave anyone behind, where we did it together for everyone, not just 90%, 100%. Because it's up to me, and it's up to you, and it's for them. Is this up? There we go. It's for them. That's why we do what we do. Look at those faces. That's why we do it. So we're in this together until it's done. And I so appreciate you taking the time to listen to a mom. And I so appreciate the Minnesota chapter for asking me to speak with you. But by golly, thank you for being at the best party that's ever going to happen when we cross that finish line where CF stands for cured forever for all. Thank you.